Alright, now I am not sure if any of you guys listen to the Webbot, well, not the Webbot, but Cliff High regarding the Webbot last night on the Jeff Rentz show. It was about 11 o'clock Eastern time, 8 o'clock Pacific time. And I saw that someone posted that on their comments to me on YouTube, and I didn't even know about it, so I'm glad I read that and then went and listened to it. And I gotta tell you, as you know, I'm moving to Tennessee in literally like 2 months. After hearing that last night, kind of putting all of it together, what he was saying, what Courtney Brown was saying, and some other guy, I can't remember what his name was, but Jeff Rentz kept mentioning him being basically on the spot on with what the Webbot and Courtney Brown said. They were both talking about the Webbot and Courtney Brown too. And again, having said that, I was going to Tennessee in 2 months makes me feel a little bit better, a little bit more secure than I would sitting here in Florida in a death trap, potentially a death trap if you're on the coast. Again, I did that video just days ago about Fort Lauderdale, Florida, flooding on the beach side, with literally because of the waves, you know, the ocean, Atlantic Ocean right there. And because of that, the whole damn beach is gone, the sidewalk's gone, the parking meters are gone, everything is gone. There's nothing but water there. This is 30 days after Hurricane Hurricane Sandy came by. It wasn't even close to Florida. It wasn't even freaking close. And they're trying to say, well, it was the Sandy churning up the ocean out there that caused. Okay, that was 30 days ago, right? 30 days ago, and now it's all gone. It's practically touching the roadway now. It has not receded in 30 days, is all I have to say. That is enough of a sign for me to know that things are not looking good for us humans, I don't think anyways, in the near future. Near future being maybe, you know, could be months, could be a couple years, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know. And I can't sit here and pretend that I know. But if you read the Webbot stuff and the Courtney Brown, the remote viewing, man, it sure, I gotta tell you, it sure sounds like this is gonna be here next year sometime. I would love, again, the Webbot not being perfect and stuff, and even remote viewing, like with Ed Dames remote viewing, not to say that he was in line with the Webbot, but or even Courtney Brown's stuff, because they both do remote viewing. But he had mentioned, you know, in 2003 they made a forecast about this huge earthquake that would cause the destruction, meltdown of a nuclear reactor in Japan. It would be at least as bad as Chernobyl, possibly worse, etc. And they were expecting that probably around 2005. Well, as we all know, what he said was absolutely astounding, how accurate it was, except it wasn't in 2005, it was 2011, or was it 11? Yeah. So, that's one thing to say, the timing's not always right. So I'm actually hoping, obviously, that this, whatever happens, that they're just kind of sure about it's going to be next year, isn't next year, and gives everybody some more time. But the sounds of it is that that's not the case. So, some interesting things that he talked about. Now, if you look, again, I did the video on this the other day too, with Courtney Brown, his remote viewing team versus the Webbot and all that stuff. And if you look at the drawings of the people who did the remote viewing for Courtney Brown, there's something coming in from the sky, slamming down in the ocean, causing massive energy to be dispersed. And when I see that, I think of something obviously slamming into the water or the ground, somewhere, whatever it is, like a meteor. I mean, that just sounds like what that would be. But Cliff High was saying last night on the show, he doesn't necessarily think it's going to be a meteor per se that slams in the earth. And aside from that, whether that happens or not, what he thinks that may be causing the real global coastal event, or at least have something to do with it, even if it's slightly after the global coastal event, thereabouts, just roughly in that same time period, is what Dr. LaViolette's superwave theory is about. And I have that 2-hour interview he did on Project Camelot a long time ago, a few years ago. And the long story short is that this guy is a PhD, has a PhD, two of them I think, highly intelligent. Some of his theories that were not mainstream, no one believes it, have already been proven right long ago. So the guy warrants some consideration for sure. And he said he has this thing called superwave theory, where he studied ice core samples years and years and years ago, and he said they were basically like hand-me-down ice core samples, so he didn't actually have to go out there and get them. They were already there. Scientists were looking for other things, and that was kind of the leftover stuff that he was excited to have, because it had up to 500,000 years worth of Earth's history, so to speak, weather and climate history, or whatever you want to call it, in the ice core. So he studied that and kept seeing these 3 rings, and then a little space, and then the 3 rings, space, little 3 rings, etc. And the rings themselves had spaces between each other, but they were always nicely spaced apart, the 3 rings, and then a space, and then 3 rings, whatever, all the way down. So he's like, what is these little 3 dark rings, these dark spots that are always here in this cyclical pattern? And he studied it and looked at what the chemical background makeup was of these little dark spots in the ice. I can't remember off the top of my head what the composition was of these things when he studied them. Nonetheless, whatever it was, we as scientists as a whole apparently know it does not originate on Earth, the moon, or anything like that. It comes somewhere from outer space. We know that much. That's about it, from what I understand. That level of bombardment would come from outer space. So something bombards Earth, our solar system, etc., the whole thing, every so often in these 3 cyclical events, all 3 different times, different time frames, causing some kind of problem. Now the ice core is not going to tell you there was a problem all of a sudden per se, but what he said was that he found 3 cycles, and one of the cycles is around 26,000 years, which, in case you don't know how important that is, the time it takes to go around the precession of the equinox, which is the 12 ages, you know, the 12 signs. Each sign is 2,160 years approximately. So each sign times 12, etc. It gives you the the roughly 26,000 years. So that was interesting, that cycles one of these rings on the ice core sample. And if you look at the ancient pictures and stuff of the snake eating its tail, the Ouroboros or whatever, which is also the center of our galaxy. When we look at the sky and you see that little ring with the little thing, again, it's like the snake eating its tail. That's what that is. So that was one of the years. The second one was like half that time, around 13,000 or 11 or 12,000 years. And then the more important one for me was the last cycle they found, which happens every 5,125 years. The exact to the day, to the time, the hour of the Mayan calendar. And again, when the Mayans were around, they started around 3,000 point of the calendar, not 5,000 years ago. So how did they know about the previous 2,000 years and start saying, hey, we're going to make a calendar today, 2,000 years later, about this 5,000 year cycle, so we're only going to have 3,000 years to go to let humanity know about this? Or what? Not necessarily humanity, but I mean, based off of what they left behind, that the Catholic Church hasn't destroyed, for God's sakes, a piece of crap Catholic Church, frickin' Vatican. We do know that they left a lot out for people to see. Having said that, that's one of the rings on the ice core samples. 5,125 years, which, as you and I know, ends, from what we're all told, December 21st, 2012. Now, listening to the show, he said there's a superwave theory that when these rings, these ice core samples, so these 3 ring marks, each of those cycles is the same thing. The same thing happens, and every now and then there's a really dark cycle of those 3. So when he's looking at the 3, there's usually one that's darker than the other 2. And then no rhyme or reason is it darker than the other 2. So in other words, it's not like it's always the second one, then the first one, then the second one, then the first one. It's just almost like a random, it's worse sometimes in any of those 3 than the other 2. Just any of them, just it's random. I don't know that that's even important. All that is really important is that when any of these things hit. So One of them's hitting December 21st, 2012. The fact that Courtney Brown and them think it's going to be June of 2013, a whole 6 months later, doesn't bother me if the Mayan calendar's off by 6 months for certain reasons. Trust me. To be 5,125 years old and then 6 months behind our time, our modern time, which we've changed it numerous times in calendar and counting systems, etc., doesn't really bother me. But Cliff High said, well, the odd thing is if, and I forgot, I think it was Courtney Brown, or he mentioned someone that said, well, it's going to be, they thought it would be July or thereabouts. Maybe it was Courtney Brown with the June or July date. He's like, my data kind of is leaning towards a little more earlier than that, possibly May instead of June or July. We'll see. Now, when he said that, and he mentioned something else that may have correlated with that, I thought to myself, well, he already knows about Dr. LaViolette and his superwave theory. Why isn't he mentioning the gravity wave? Maybe he forgot, or maybe, you know, whatever. I feel like I wish I could call into Jeff Rance and say, hey, wait, you guys are missing something. But the superwave theory itself, before I go on, I gotta tell you, the superwave theory is that at the center of our galaxy, you know, the black hole, the Milky Way, is that there's some kind of energy that puffs out, whatever, and as our planet, which takes those thousands of years or whatever to line up with the center and all that, we have this alignment with this energy. That might be the 26,000 year alignment, by the way, or the 13,000, the halfway point, and it does it twice, you know, for every wave cycle it goes through, which is like an alternating current type of wave. It may be every 13,000 years that we do that. But nonetheless, something aligns with something every 5,125 years because the same thing happens. What Cliff High was saying, and it was based off of some very recent information from Dr. LaViolette that I haven't heard yet, was that there's this cloud out there, which I'm sure you've heard of, even NASA talked about this recently, some kind of plasma cloud that we're entering in our solar system. And he said there was something at the center of this cloud, some kind of mass or something, they're not sure what it is, it was large, whatever. And that, which not the one that's entering our solar system per se, but he said it was like 26,000, you know, something light years away, just way out. But that is definitely aligning with the center of the galaxy and may have something to do with whatever's happening. Are we going to get that energy, that cloud, whatever, is that going to get hit with the energy wave and slam into Earth, causing the dirt particle stuff on the ice core samples? I don't know. But he mentioned that that might be what's causing it, but that is not due to align until around July of 2013. So that alignment does not happen until July of 2013, which is why Cliff High said, well, maybe that's why Courtney Brown, when they remote viewed June or so, that's close enough, all these events have happened. What I was going to tell Cliff High is, hey, wait a minute, you're forgetting one thing of why the events can happen earlier than June or July. Dr. LaViolette said in his original Superwave interview that the only way we would know that this thing is here because it's traveling faster than the speed of light or at the speed of light or something like that, is that it would be preceded, the superwave would be preceded by a gravity wave in front of it. So if the superwaves do, let's say, July of 2013, then that means the gravity wave is going to hit us first. So he said look for volcanic and earthquake type of activity to pick up when this thing hits you, because the gravity wave would in his opinion do that, and that'll be your sign of, hey, the superwave's coming shortly. So again, I haven't seen a real big increase in earthquake activity, you know, in recent weeks or anything. But again, with the flooding of Fort Lauderdale, is there volcanic and stuff activity that's out under the ocean that we're not really seeing, causing it to rise and fall or whatever, thus moving the water around on coastal areas, etc.? Possible. I don't know, but we're gonna find out. So it was a very interesting interview last night. They covered a bunch of different things, and I gotta tell you again, I'm very glad that this appears at least to be working out for me to move to Tennessee in a hurry. So I will keep you updated, and that's about it. Take care.